Hello, and welcome to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the injury market's top program for doctors, lawyers, and insurers who want to gain greater insight on how to improve patient recovery results and deliver better services in the U.S. injury market. Please welcome your host, Dr. Jeffrey Allen Kronk.
Hey doctors, what I want to talk about in this podcast is deciding to be great. Deciding to be great in the injury market. I'm going to tell you, I have worked with a lot of doctors now, and one of the things that I see that the truly, the doctors that really excel, and when I say really excel, I mean excel, they can sleep well at night. They're not worried about who's looking at what. They're not really worried about anything because they made a decision, and it's a big decision. They made a decision to be great at injury care. And what does that actually mean? I mean, if I'm looking, I see signs, hey, auto injury, we do trauma injury, but I don't normally see doctors' offices say, hey, high results spinal injury recovery center, quick, fast results spinal injury recovery center, great results spinal injury recovery center. Because if I'm a public, that's what I want. I want great recovery results. That's what I want, right? And that's what we should be looking for. That's what the truly great doctors in the spinal injury market are able to do. First and foremost, they know the injuries. They know what the injuries are. They know how to work up the injuries, and they start to become great and master the treatment of these injuries so that they can get great results. Now, they also have to be in the medical legal side. They have to be in that medical legal event. But the first thing they have to do is decide to be great, not be average. When I say be great, I don't mean be average. Be average is not great. There's nothing great about being average. One of my favorite words for average, there's a time in my life, in my practice, where I practiced for 17 years. I was practicing, first 2 years I starved to death, and I went out on my own. And I hired a coach, I hired a consultant, and all of a sudden I just shot up. I just took off. And I was immediately, within that next year, I was making more money than I ever made in my life. With the year after that, I was making more money than anybody in my family was making. Right? So I just immediately took off. Within the third year, I'm sitting there, I'm making money, I've got a busy practice, everything's going great, except for one thing. I knew I was completely average as a chiropractor. I knew I was a mediocre chiropractor at best. And so I knew I needed to change. And at that point, I decided, I made a decision, and it was a great decision. I either made a decision I was going to quit, because I'd rather quit than be average or mediocre, or I was going to become in the top 2%. First, I thought top 10%, then I went top 2% of those that could correct a spine, that could rehab a spine. And so I sought out the best persons that I could find. I hooked up with Bro Pettibon. I hooked up with the CBP providers, the Harrisons, Don, Deed, now more Don at that time. And I learned everything I could about spinal correction work so that I could be in the top 2% of the providers that could actually do that kind of work. I decided to be great. I decided to master something. And my life completely changed at that point. When I decided to master that, I got into, I had to understand ligament injuries. You're going to realign a spine. You got to understand ligament injuries because you're working with the ligaments. That's the main thing you're working with. That's the thing that gets damaged, that causes misalignment to the spine in the first place. So it led me on a lifetime of, in a different direction of ligament injuries and really focusing on spinal injuries themselves. Because I realized that's what I really liked working on, because I really liked taking on the risk that the patient had. Look, a patient has a high risk of never fully recovering. If your son or daughter is in an accident and they're in another state, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. If a loved one, a member of someone that you really care about, a friend, they moved away, they're in another state, and they get into an injury, good luck trying to find a clinic to put them in. Good luck. Right? Because you'll be just like I am. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Where is a center? Where's a center that's really good with these types of injuries? You want to be that center in your, I don't care if you're in a town of 2,000 or you're in a town of 10 million. You're in a city of 10 million. You want to be that clinic. That's the thing that you want to be. Now, when you first start out and you're going toward greatness, hey, you're just trying to get your bills paid. You're just trying to get everything sorted out. You're trying to get your business sorted out, right? That's what you're mostly interested in at first. You think, oh, greatness, Dr. Cronk. Hell, I just want to get my bills paid. I just want to, I want to get my equipment paid off, or I want to get my overhead so that I'm actually making good money. And I get all that, right? But if you make a decision to be great at injury care, you decide to get into injury care, decide to be great at it. Decide to be great at it. How do you get great at something? We have to study it. You have to practice it. You have to study it. You have to practice it. You have to study it. You have to practice it. Right? That's how you get to be great at something. You have to do it. Doctors will say, okay, look, I'm great at ligament testing. I say, great. How many excessive motion tests have you done? I don't know. I think I've done 3. I'm like, you're not great at injury care. You're not great at injury workups. Do 500 of them. And then you're starting to get great. Then you're starting to realize, okay, exactly where it's at. Now, if you're sitting there and you go, hey, I've only done 20, I've only done 50, whatever, that's fine. So you're on the road to that. You're on the road to that. And well done for making that decision. Look, I think it's absolutely hilarious when I see what's in the profession today. You got people all over on internet sites and in chat groups touting that they routinely get high settlements. Oh my God, look at me. I got another high settlement. We got another high settlement. As if the chiropractor is getting the settlement. There's attorneys that are getting the settlement. But whenever I look at somebody who's really touting, hey, look at how much we increase claim value in the market. Look at how, hey, I'm routinely getting 6 and 7 figure settlements. I say, great, that's great. But how's the patient care? Because in order for a patient to get that type of settlement, they have to have a bad recovery, right? So myself in the market as a provider, I'm like, hey, look, I'm trying to drive down settlements, because when you get great results, you drive down settlements, but you don't drive away business. That's the biggie. You don't drive away business. When you get great at injury care and you get great at what you do, the business just comes in on you. It just comes in on you. You can't get rid of it. Right? So it's just deciding to be great. And there's no tricks. There's no, I can always tell sort of an amateur who and I've fallen into this myself, right? So I can see it because I've lived it myself. Is you fall for a trick. You're looking for the next new trick or the next new scheme. Hey, what's the next new scheme to go out to attorneys? What do I really need to do? Do I need to have, 47 certificates on my wall that say, you know what? I've studied everything there is under the sun, moon, and stars. Good. I don't care about that. What's your results like? Are you any good at what you do? I don't care how many. I could have a guy who's the top bridge engineer in the world. He's got cert after cert. He's got a whole room full of certs. He's got a curriculum vitae that just runs on and on and on and on and on. Only problem is he can't build a bridge. Okay. So in the injury market, one of the biggest things is you want to decide to be great. Because if you're great, attorney referrals are not a problem. Attorney relationships are not a problem. If you're great at what you do, you're like top of the line good at what you do. MD relationships, orthopedic surgeon relations. People want to be around people who are great. You ever notice that if you look and look at who you like to be around or who you follow? Don't you follow? Don't you put your attention on people that are great at what they do? Whether it's sports, whether it's writing, whether it doesn't matter what it is. You will find that your attention will migrate toward greatness. It really does. Now, how do you get great? Well, you got to always be learning, right? I've never seen anybody that was great at what they do that said, all right, I'm at the end of the road. Time to stop learning now. I've learned everything there is to learn about this. It's not. You're not done. You're never done. Not ever. So, truly great providers, if you want to know how to get truly great. Okay, so that's great, Dr. Cronk, but how do I do that? You do it by making a decision. You make a decision. And then once you make a decision, other things will start to line up around you. You'll start to look and say, well, gosh, what kind of continuing education do I want to do? Hey, I want to do continuing education on rehab of injuries. I want to know how different equipment, what does a laser do for an injury? What does ultrasound do for an injury? What does sleep do for an injury? What does rest do for an injury? What do vitamins do for an injury? What are the best vitamins for an injury? What does an adjustment do for an injury? How does a hypermobile segment get corrected through a spinal adjustment? Why would I adjust something that's hypermobile? How do I determine how hypermobile it is? What's the testing for it? What happens when there's a disc herniation and super hypermobility? What happens? What are the most common symptoms if I have a craniocervical junction injury? And what am I going to do with it? How well can I answer questions? How well can I explain it to patients? These are all questions. These are all things that you're going to have on your way to being truly great at what you do in injury care. And I tell you what, the market needs it like never before. It does not need, I'll give you a story. This will run a little bit long, but I'll give you a story. So I run a coaching group. I have a new doctor who is going out for his first attorney meeting. He's going out to an attorney. I get an email that says, oh my gosh, can you call me? Or something to that effect. I had a really bad experience. This was really bad. So I'm like, okay, great. I love that. Good. I texted him back and said, or emailed him back and said, hey, well done for getting a bad experience out of the way. Sometimes people have to hit, they have to do a lot of different presentations before they hit that. You hit it right away. Good job. So when I get on the phone with him, to make a long story short, he hit a mill attorney, an absolute 100% mill attorney. Here's what they do. Hey, here's what we do in this particular state. We do a little bit of chiro care. Then we get them in for shots and injections, nerve burns if possible. Hey, if we got good policy, maybe we can actually get them into a surgical procedure, right? So he's explaining, I already know this. He's explaining this. Now, he doesn't really know how to handle that, how to impinge on that, how to actually take control of that conversation. So the only thing he feels about, and the guys like ligament injuries, that, those are nothing. We've tested that. We've tested different kind of testing. This stuff just doesn't go over in our state. This is, a bunch of BS. This is what actually is the right way for us to do it. Right? So I say to the doctor, that group that, hey, I did a little bit of care, I do shots and, all that stuff. Would you ever send anyone over to that guy? And he's like, no. I said, okay, well, that's all you hit. That's all you hit. And some of the talk was borderline, what I would say borderline criminal. Right? So it's like, okay, are you going to hit that? Are there things like that in the market? Sure there are. Doesn't mean you have to be part of it. That's not part of greatness. That's not greatness. That's somebody who's taken a shortcut. And you know what? They don't feel good about it. And things happen. They get problems always, all kinds of problems. The way out of problems is be great at what you do. Be really great at what you do. Because if you're great at what you do, you get great results. And if you're getting great results, guess what? You're going to want to do it all the time. The things that you don't want to do, you don't do well. The things that you go, oh, damn, I really don't want to. I'm the same way. The things I don't want to do, it's because I don't know how to do them. It's because I'm not good at them. Right? In the injury market, it's not hard to be great. But what it is hard is if you think you're going to be great and you've never made the decision to be great. I'm going to tell you, you're probably mediocre. I know. I live there myself. You got to make a decision, and I'm going to tell you, it's the best decision you'll ever make. If you're going to be in injury care, I don't care if you're going to be there for a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, decide to be the greatest injury care provider in your community, period. Decide, what does that mean? That means great diagnostic understanding, great understanding of the injuries, great understanding what your treatment does for these injuries. As you do that, you get greatness in your communication skills. Your communication skills about the injuries improve. You can go out to attorneys, you can go out to MDs, you can do whatever you want to. When you truly become great, business is never an issue. It's never an issue. So decide to become great. Doctors, these podcasts are short, sweet, and to the point. I hope this impinged on you a little bit. I hope maybe it helped you to maybe take a look at any area. Maybe it's your clinic, maybe it's your injury aspect of your clinic, or maybe it's other aspects of your clinic. Doesn't matter what you're doing, decide to be great at it. As always, if you have any interest in our program, we have a Smart Injury Doctors program. You've probably seen it. Go to our website, www.smartinjurydoctors.com. You can check us out or call us at 800-940-6513. Doctors, thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.
You've been listening to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the #1 audio production show for professionals in the U.S. injury market that want to deliver better injury services to the patients, clients, or insureds they serve. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review and don't forget to join us on our next program.